What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Well Man's Podcast. My name is Bryan Brozy. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Dr. Keoni Tita. Keoni, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this podcast because it's a follow-up to last week's on skincare. So we're going to specifically be talking about taking care of your skin, but in regards to sunburn, which is probably the primary way people damage their skin is via sunburns. On the previous podcast, we talked of, ways like lifestyle things like smoking and other things that can also damage skin. But sunburn's a biggie, and there's a lot you can do about it to treat it and to prevent it. So that's what I want to get into today. So hopefully people will get a lot out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there'd be no better place to start than right at the surface of the skin. So just to give us a little bit of an education, kind of what's getting impacted here, but we do know there's a few layers to the skin. The epidermis, which is your top layer, the part that you're seeing, the dermis, which is your second layer, and the subcutaneous fat layer at the bottom, which obviously has a little bit of subcutaneous fat to it. The epidermis and the dermis are typically what we see get affected with a sunburn.
Yeah.
So that's typically what's given us that reaction and letting us know that we got too much sun.
Right. And the thing that really, there's a number of factors that relate to sunburn, and some of them I really want to get into detail here, but the main factors are knowing when and how to use sunscreen, the fairness or darkness of your skin, the types of UV ultraviolet radiation coming through and what you have to worry about there. Basically what you can do once you get burned, how to protect your skin. So let's get into that, like the basics of sun care. Take it with your skin when you're out.
All right. Outdoors. So right now we don't have a sunburn yet, but we're trying to not get one. Correct, Keoni?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
But and let's forget about everything else. We're getting ready to go to the beach and we're going outside. And I think one of the first things we need to know is when the sun is strongest and when you're most likely to get sunburn. And that's typically between 10 and 4 p.m.
10 and
when
4.
the rays are the strongest. That is the time you really want to wear sunscreen. And I think what they're recommending as far as sunscreen now is a SPF of 30, sun protecting factor of 30 at least. When you're looking at sunscreen, that's what you're trying to do. That will get out like 99% of the UV light, so you won't get burned by it. And one thing I also want to bring up, because I think some people really think, well, I have darker skin, so I don't have to wear sunscreen, and that is absolutely not true. But it is true that you probably will not burn as fast, and you do have some skin protection there. And it's funny, like very dark-skinned individuals actually have an SPF protection of up to 13 or 15 in their skin. So that's pretty cool, because you see some sunscreens that are rated as SPF, 15.
Yeah. And you see that in action living in Florida. As the summer grows long, I grow tanner and less easily burned, likely to get burned. I definitely feel like I'm getting drained from the sunlight. I just feel more protected by my own skin's natural defenses. As the summer wears on, I get more exposure.
Yeah. And you are. And that has to do with melanin, the melanocytes in your skin. And most people have that. There are some people with a genetic disorder that do not have that protection at all, albinoism, and these people really need to stay out of the sun, because it really will eat up their skin, or they have to use tremendous amounts of sunscreen. But I think one of the things is people really don't know how to use sunscreen appropriately. If you're going out into the sun and you are swimming or you're going to a pool, you're sweating a lot, I mean, you really have to keep reapplying this sunscreen, and you have to apply it all over the sun exposed areas, your face, your back, your ears, your feet, and things like that. You typically don't have to be you don't have to worry as much about areas that are covered by clothes so much, but the sun exposed areas, you really have to make sure that you lather it on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's a big deal because a lot of people do not really know how to do that. So a couple things. Sunscreen should be typically what they're recommending is an SPF of 30 or higher. You should apply the sunscreen on actually before going outdoors. When you are outdoors, you really want to apply, typically every couple hours and more if you're sweating and swimming and rinsing it off constantly. You don't really need to worry about if you have clothes protecting you. It depends on the type of clothes, but usually you don't have to put it on, underneath your clothes. But the main thing is reapplying it while you're out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting every area, like you
The other
mentioned
thing
in
also
high school,
is
Keoni.
making sure that if you do get sunburned, the best advice is to get out of the sun. So I know I see this with a lot of people. They'll go, oh, I got a little bit of sunburn, and now they apply the sunscreen and go back out there, and that can just make things worse, and it can make things worse in a number of ways. One of the ways is there may be irritants in the sunscreen that can cause your skin to be irritated. This is why I think it's very important for people to wear sunscreen that has more natural protectants in it. And we talked about this on our last podcast, but for people to get an idea of what a good sunscreen is, they can go to the environmentalworkinggroup.org, ewg.org, or cosmeticsdatabase.com, and they can find a sunscreen that doesn't have all these extra chemicals in there that may be detrimental or more detrimental, especially when you get sunburn. So I always recommend my clients get a natural sunscreen that can really help block the UVA UVB radiation that's coming through.
Yeah,
just a little bit of physics here though. What we're trying to block really is UVA and the UVB light. UVC has a little bit shorter wavelength than UVA and UVB, and it can be much more harming. But luckily, it's typically blocked out, before the light even reaches the Earth, so you don't really get that. But so what we have to really worry about is UVA and UVB, and the lowest energy of all three of those hitting the skin would be the UVA, and then UVB is the main culprit that really can cause a lot of problems. But both UVA and UVB need to be, taken care of and protected, especially with sunscreen. And if we don't, what does it do? It really causes the skin to prematurely age. So you get wrinkling, you get, you're definitely more prone to skin cancers. You basically just look older than you really are over time. And I bring this, I want to also bring this up with people with darker skin. You do have extra sun protection, but what's really kind of interesting about darker skin, it's almost like a catch-22. Yeah, you definitely have more melanin in your skin, and it definitely has some protection there. But if you get a lot of sun exposure and do get burned, even with darker skin, it seems like long after you are out of the sun, there's kind of a catch-22 at the melanin. It's like it's almost like you generate more free radicals in your skin, which is really weird. And the way and I bring this up because there's this myth out there that people with darker skin don't really have to worry so much about sun exposure. But what is also interesting, people with darker skin also seem more likely to die if they get from skin cancer than people with lighter skin. And I don't know what that's due to. That may have something to do with our healthcare system or whatever, but it's one of these things that everybody needs to be aware of, and protect their skin the best way they can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you're going out to the beach and it's a summer day and it's between 10 and 4. So people with blacker skin, darker skin, people with fair skin, whiter skin, all need to really pay attention to it. So with that being said, I want to kind of get into ways now. We all know about sunscreen. We've heard that, but I want to kind of get into ways now that that's like kind of like an external protection. What about more of an internal protection for protecting your skin? And we never hear about this. And this goes right back to diet and hydration. The more hydrated your body, the more hydrated your skin, the better protection you'll have from UVA, UVB light.
Right.
The higher content of vegetables and what we call polyphenols. Polyphenols are compounds or carotenoids. These are compounds that are found high in vegetables and food. These things actually deposit in your skin and help protect you against the UVA, UVB, UVB radiation. And these are things that you can take. And they have actually calculated, there's studies done on this where they've actually, checked skin where they'd expose it to, sunlight or these UVA, UVB light rays. And they have actually seen that people who eat better diets actually have much better skin protection. They actually, in addition to their normal SPF protection, depending on how dark or fair their skin is, they get an additional anywhere 2 to 4 SPF in addition to their diet. So eating a healthier diet actually gives you what we call internal sunscreen.
Yeah, wow. Now, what are some of those specifics? I know we've talked about, of course, the mighty tomato.
I can't hear you, Bryan.
Oh, can you hear me now? I think you got me turned down, Keoni.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you just fine. Okay, so what kind of foods? We know we've touched on the mighty tomato quite a bit before, and lycopene and what that can do for us.
We actually did a podcast on that, and lycopene is a carotenoid, and carotenoids will deposit in your skin and give you sun protection. So other foods that kind of have that red color to it, we're talking about tomatoes are high in lycopene, watermelon, cantaloupe, guava, some of these like pink to red colored fruits and vegetables will actually add carotenoids to your skin, but also green leafies also add tons of carotenoids to your skin. But lycopene's a big one. And not only does it add protection to your skin, it also seems to help prevent against skin cancer, all these things too. And also makes your skin look healthier and shinier. And
yeah.
So that's one of them. So the carotenoids, lycopene being one of them. But there's tons of other foods out there that can really, really help. And one of my favorites and very high in polyphenols is cocoa and chocolate. Yeah. The darker the chocolate, the better it is for the skin. Very high in polyphenols. Quite interesting studies done on that. So consuming your chocolate helps. Other foods that can help are things like tea, green tea. So drinking your green tea. Now, a lot of cosmetic products will put these things in it so you can apply them topically to your skin too. So green tea extracts, cocoa, grape seed extracts. There's other herbs, lots of herbs out there. I mean, we have to think about what in the plant world, like any plant that is being exposed to the sun a lot, probably is probably going to have some benefit for human skin if you can consume it and it doesn't irritate your skin. So there's a plant that they've done studies on called Calluna vulgaris. That's the common name is heather. You may find this in cosmetic products. Resveratrol is another compound we've talked about. Yeah. Isoflavonones, genistein and equal. These are also plant compounds. So eating a whole foods diet and a colorful diet is a great way to protect your skin and keep it healthy. They've done experiments, believe it or not, on red wine. The red wine has lots of polyphenols in it, has some resveratrol in it. And again, it seems with some internal intake and also with topical application of it, it seems to protect the skin. Propolis, B-propolis is also another thing that can also protect the skin, taking it internally. One really interesting thing that I found just fascinating is that foods that are high in a compound called histidine, which is an amino acid. So amino acids are building blocks of protein. So foods that are high in histidine are like basically proteinaceous foods. But one vegetable that is very high in it that doesn't have a lot of color to it is cauliflower. And cauliflower actually has a lot of histidine in it. And what happens with histidine is it actually stimulates the production of a compound called urocanic acid, and this absorbs UV radiation. So so urocanic acid is a metabolite of histidine, and it will accumulate in the skin, and it's actually excreted in the sweat, and it actually has a lot of interest to photobiologists and photodermatologists because of it intensely absorbs light at approximately 270 nanometers, and if you know anything about the light spectrum, UVA through UVC along that spectrum, that's between 400 and 100 nanometers wavelength. So it's just really interesting that this compound kind of, deposits in the skin and absorbs light at that level, and thus helps protect skin because
Right.
of it. So the lowly cauliflower. I shouldn't say lowly because there's a lot of other things about cauliflower because it's part of the cruciferous vegetable family and it has other things that can help. But most people say, well, cauliflower is not going to be really good for you because it doesn't have a lot of color. It's usually white, but it also can help with your skin. Another compound that I find interesting uh, is astaxanthin, and you find this compound. It's basically the compound that gives salmon and lobster and flamingos their pinkish or reddish hue, and again, it's very intake in this. It protects the skin. There's a lot of neat things that it does, but one of the things is it's a great skin protectant. So you see this as a supplement
Yeah, absolutely.
in stores quite a bit, right? It has this
Yeah.
reddish color to it. You see it in reddish caps.
Hmm.
Um, Another one is coenzyme Q10. It also seems to have a great effect on skin. It has broad acting effects. Most people usually think of coenzyme Q10 as something that helps keep your mitochondria running appropriately. I use it mainly as a cardiovascular protectant for a lot of my patients. It's great. I'll give it to anybody with high blood pressure or arrhythmias, anything like that. And then you also want to think about a couple of minerals that will help skin heal really well. And they also play a role in protecting skin. One is zinc. And you may remember like people wearing zinc oxide on their face or whatever. It's the real whitish like sun protectant. It's like goes on like a paste, and you've seen the people with white noses out.
Yeah.
Well, that's zinc oxide, and it's probably mixed with titanium oxide. And basically, what it does is it just completely blocks the sunlight from even getting to your skin. So that's how it plays a role. But taking zinc internally does a number of things, and it can also help stabilize cell membranes. It actually helps to optimize these metalloenzymes that are involved in keeping collagen in your skin integrity intact. It helps with cell differentiation, protects DNA and RNA in the cells. So these are not only zinc is not only a good topical thing, but there's also zinc supplements out there that can help. And then another one is selenium. And the reason why I like selenium is because it's a compound that is associated with, or at least when you're deficient in it or subclinically deficient in it, you're more likely to get skin cancer. So it may not work on the level of protecting the skin, kind of like zinc does,
Hmm.
but it works. Ultimately, what are we trying to do besides keeping our skin looking healthy and us looking good and attractive? We're mainly trying to prevent cancer of the skin, which can be deadly if not caught
Right.
early.
Hmm.
So selenium could help there. Um, a few other things, and we talked about this on the skincare thing. Talked about collagen a little bit. Just as kind of review, collagen helps with wound healing. It helps with it enhances facial microcirculation. It helps with keeping water in the skin. ceramides we talked about last time. These things you can find as supplements. Also help protect the skin, help keep moisture in the skin. One of the big ones, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this, is vitamin D. We know that skin is the best place to produce vitamin D, but also having adequate vitamin D helps protect your skin and also helps protect you from getting cancers and skin cancers, as well as other skin manifestations like atopic dermatitis and psoriasis and stuff like that. And then last time we talked about keeping your microbiome healthy of your skin. So, we have bugs all over our skin. So making sure that the microbiome diversity is there. And one of the ways to do that is actually making sure that the microbiome diversity is good in your gut. So probiotics and things like that can help. And there's also cosmeceuticals or cosmetics that actually will put probiotics in there so that you can put on your skin. So let's say, all right, so we have the good diet, we want to enjoy the sun, we wear our sunscreen, all that, but okay, it's the first few days of summer, we go out, we stay out longer than we should, we're not really paying attention to time, and lo and behold, we get sunburn. Right. So now what do we do? I think one of the most important things to do is, and my favorite remedy for helping with sunburns is using aloe. And there's some caveats to that, because aloe is best used straight from the plant. So if you're going to use aloe, really get a 100% aloe concoction and put on your skin. It's very soothing and it helps heal the skin. The problem with some aloe products is they have other chemicals and irritants in there. And sometimes you may lather on aloe thinking you're lathering on a good aloe onto your sunburned skin, and it stings and burns and it just irritates your skin. And it may just be due to all this other stuff in there. So you're sunburned, and then, you hear people say stuff like, oh, well, I'm sunburned, I won't use aloe, but let me use coconut oil. Well, here's the issue with oils like coconut oil. I remember back in the day, 80s and 90s, people are lathering on baby oil and stuff like that onto their skin. Part of the reason they're doing that, because baby oil, it's mineral oil. It's actually petroleum. Mineral oil is a petroleum product. So they're lathering on their skin, and it may help them tan quickly. It also helps them burn quickly. But if you put any oil on your skin after you got a sunburn, you'll quickly realize if you go out in the sun that that's very uncomfortable, because it traps heat in your skin.
It's like a magnifying glass.
Yeah, and so it's not good. Now, if your skin is not burned and you go out into the sun, coconut oil does afford you some SPF protection. It's certainly not like great sunscreen that you can get over the counter at a drugstore or online somewhere, but it does give you some protection.
Yeah, it is a barrier.
Yeah, it acts as a barrier. It gives you some sunscreen protection. Other things that do that, for soothing irritated skin, doing like the wet sock treatment with oatmeal in it. I don't know if you ever heard of that. You
can't say I heard of that one, Keoni.
Yeah, put oatmeal in there. Let the oatmeal kind of soak up the water, and you can dab it on kind of the sunburned areas. And it you can put it in like a sock or cheesecloth or anything like that. And I've heard people saying they do oatmeal baths, but you're gonna have a heck of a mess if you do that in your bathtub. I know people have done that. What else? Making a compress out of witch hazel or teas, like green teas or things like that, which don't trap the heat in there.
Or even a cold compress.
Absolutely, yeah. There you go. Like using cold, which tells you, well, you don't want to add heat to an already heated up area. So cold is going to help with the skin a little bit. Sometimes you get really sunburned and you're cold. It can give you chills. That's just your body's response to helping you heal. Baking soda or cornstarch, also you can make a paste out of that and apply onto a sunburned area if you don't have aloe around. And then we talked about hydration. Hydration is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously getting out of the sun goes without saying.
Absolutely. Getting out of the sun. Absolutely. And that's a good thing to think. So some people will think, well, I'm in a shaded area, and being in a shade, if you can't get out of sun, definitely get in a shaded area. But even in a shaded area, you're still getting some light on your skin. And so if you're already sunburned, that may, there may be better options. Like you should get out of the sun for for a while. Also, once you get burned, I think it's important, and I know it's kind of difficult for people to do. And I just bring this up because when you get burned, usually 2 to 3 days after, your skin's going to start to peel, right? And
Right.
flake. And a lot of people like want to, I don't know,
Yeah,
even
peel that
go
off,
through a
right?
nurse to peel it off. And that can bring in other problems like infections, like breaking the skin, things like that. So you should do your best not to do that. It's really interesting. My godson is from the UK, and he came here a few years back during the summer months, and we went out. I forget what we were doing. I think we may have been on a hike or whatever. Well, he actually got slightly burned. First of all, he didn't know what it was because he was in the UK, why his skin was red. But then 2 or 3 days after, he's all freaked out because his skin was peeling. So I kind of had to explain to him what was going on there. With that being said, people in the UK, you need to use sunscreen too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, so you want to be careful with that. Here, there are some really interesting. I don't know if you heard this way back when, but as a child, I remember certain people saying, "Oh, if you get sunburn, rub butter on your skin." Have you heard that?
Haven't heard that one either.
Okay, well
Keoni. The
that
oatmeal
is
sock and the butter.
yeah, well that rubbing butter on your skin is not going to do anything for you at all. Okay, so I just chalk that up to a false old wives' tale. So that is false. So rubbing butter on your skin is probably not going to do.
Oatmeal sock has some truth to it.
Oatmeal sock has some truth to it. Yes.
And by the time you get done with all the remedies, you may have a batch of cookies.
Yeah. Yes, you might. Right. You could add propolis in there. You can add a little bit of honey. That's exactly right. So, but let's, and the other thing also, some like essential oils are a big deal now. They're kind of like a fad thing right now in the natural world. Be careful putting essential oils on your skin, especially when you are already burned. They can make the burn a lot worse, especially citrus essential oils or any essential oils that are warming, like cinnamon oils and things like that. Also, really be careful about putting cosmetics on your skin, like perfumes or colognes, which can make it worse. Hot showers, you'll do that once and won't want to do it again with your sunburn. Exfoliating your skin, of course, is not a good idea. And then wearing tight clothes or covering up your sunburn with makeups can just make it worse again.
Right.
So definitely want to be careful with that. So I guess the question is okay, how did sunscreen come about, and did our ancient ancestors use sunscreen? They actually did use sunscreen. They got sunburned like everybody else. And one of the best sunscreens they used for their skin was mud. Mud will block it out and acts as a sunscreen barrier. You can apply. It's easy. If you're ever stuck out in a sun area that you have no sunscreen and you need some sunscreen, make yourself some mud and start putting it all over your body, and it will dry and flake off. But even the dried mud on your skin, this residue there will act as sunscreen. That kind of acts like that zinc oxide stuff. So that's one thing you can do. And I think there's some stories of Native Americans taking like mud and then certain residues off trees. Like I've heard of aspen powder, where if you live in an area where aspen trees are, there's like, if you rub your hand along the bark, there's like this white powder that comes off the bark, and you can, put that on or mix it in mud and then make a more natural sunscreen there. What else? Some people will say that water will enhance a sunburn, or that's actually not true either. Water may help to some extent to help deflect some of the sun from making.
So protect against the sunburn.
Yeah, it can help protect. Like Like if you were out in the middle of the ocean, water may help. But again, you just want to get into a shaded area and just, not be burned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not keep that sun on your skin the whole time. What else? I think we covered most of everything I wanted to talk about. Is there anything else you want to go over, Bryan?
No, that's pretty much it. You got a kind of protocol for when it does happen. Obviously, get out of the sun. We listed a few things that you can do in the immediate to help treat it, and then obviously all the stuff we listed about preventing it. I did get sunburned one time in high school, Keoni. You may or may not recall. I used to shave my head. Shaved my head, went out just coaching football all day, came back and had a head peeling like an onion. That was probably the most painful sunburn I ever had.
Yeah.
All on top of
you
my
have to
head.
be careful. Right. Yeah. You really have to be careful. Like if the first days of summer or going to the beach and stuff like that, that's really when you want to really lather on the sunscreen. Yeah, and the other thing I also want to say, another natural sunscreen that people of the Mediterranean use, especially in ancient times, is olive oil, right? So olive oil actually has an SPF value close to 8. So
and that's topically, correct? So
that's topically, but also it probably gives you, there's lots of polyphenols in olive oil. So eating olive oil or the Mediterranean diet, which is a very colorful diet, can also give you some internal sunscreen. And we talked on our lycopene podcast, whenever you have olive oil and take it in with lycopene, the carotenoids, it really helps enhance absorption and get it to your skin. Coconut oil, what we said before is if you're going to use it and you have nothing else as a sunscreen, actually has an SPF of around 7. So that also can help. There's other oils that also have that. But typically once you're burned, you want to really be careful with oils and trapping the heat. And last thing, because I don't think I've gone over this. I want people to get an idea. What do we actually mean by SPF? It's actually it's the acronym for sun protection factor, and it's defined as the UV energy required to produce a minimal erythemal dose, they call it MED, in protected skin. And so which is then divided by the UV energy required to produce an MED, minimal erythemal dose, in unprotected skin. So SPF, if you think about an equation, equals the MED in sunscreen protected skin divided by MED in non-sun protected skin. And usually that non-sun protected skin, the baseline is fair-skinned people.
Okay.
How they rank the SPF.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So foods, it would be really interesting to think about foods. Like if you pick up a food and it's labeled SPF, what's its SPF factor? Depending on the dose and the time that you eat it. And these polyphenols actually have SPF factors when you actually look at it in the studies. More study needs to be done, but it's pretty cool. And then I think we talked about at the beginning. I mean, people with darker skin, they can tend to have healthier skin, but they basically when sun exposed, but they really have to be careful because they can burn. It's not like one of these things that you have a lot of protection. I mean, if you're out in the sun a long time, you're still going to burn, and you still need to take care of your skin, both internally and externally. And that's the main point about this podcast. Like, I just want people to realize that you're going to be less likely to burn or burn as bad if you're eating a healthy diet. That's really the main point of this podcast. And I just wanted to bring that up to people, that eating colorful foods, lots of spices, these are the things that me and you've gone over and over again in a lot of podcasts. Help your skin in more than one way in protecting you from sun. I mean, a lot of these things actually will protect you against skin cancer also.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, you're rolling on your diet for spring break anyway. Might as well add some SPF to it.
Right.
A double bonus.
Right. And eat healthy. Oh, I keep thinking there are other things that I want to talk about. What about tannin beds?
Oh yeah. I didn't even think we needed to touch on them.
Well, I mean, a lot of people use them, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I think there's this notion that if you get, and they'll use them during the winter months, that tanning beds are not as bad for you as being in the sun. Well, that may or may not be true. You're still getting UVA and UVB. Like, I think most tanning beds use the UVA instead of the UVB radiation. The UVB radiation is the most harmful, but it's still, it's still hard on your skin.
Yeah.
So you really want to be careful with that. I mean, I recommend my patients, if they're going to use tanning beds, that they use sunscreen in them also, or they keep the dosing down minimally. When they go in there, they do especially with the fair of the skin, you're only in there for a few minutes, you get out, and then you come in daily and slowly acclimate your skin, to the UVA.
Yeah, it is free outside. You just got to take your shirt off.
Yeah. You're right.
Have you ever been in a tanning bed before?
I have been in one before. Yes.
It's a haunting visual.
Mm-hmm.
Picturing you with your beady little black eye things.
Right. Yeah.
Little slippers.
Yep. Yep. And it's very easy to stay in them too long. So you really want to be careful with those. So, all right. I think we covered most of everything that I wanted to say.
Keoni, if you get a spray tan, does that, obviously we've hit on it a little bit, but it does give you a barrier. There's something on your skin. So maybe you are getting a little SPF factor. What do we know past that, if anything, in regards to how that protects you? Or even what you recommend?
I think, well, I'm not sure, but I think you're right. You do get some SPF protection there, but most people are pretty much doing it not even for that. They're just doing it for cosmetic reasons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so I tell people, if you're going to do that, it's probably best to do something that doesn't have a whole lot of chemicals in there. And I know like a lot of these spray tan products have all these chemicals in there. I actually had a spray tan once and I couldn't stand it. I wanted to, it smelled, I mean, the smell, there was a constant smell to it that was kind of off-putting. And then also it kind of makes you look like you wrestled a Cheetos bag, for a while. And so the coloring has to be just right. And then people who get it, usually there's areas where you're not getting it. So there's the fine marks and lines. And then also it can run too. Sometimes it will run down your face and stuff. So I'm certainly not an expert on that. I know people who actually have spray tanning businesses, and will swear by it and swear that it's maybe a healthier option.
Do they find healthier options, Keoni, as far as
there are healthier options for spraying stuff on your skin. But like we said before on the last podcast, anything you put on your skin is going to get absorbed into your body. Anything. That's including tattoos, anything. So you want to make sure whatever you're putting on your skin is good.
Yeah.
And just real quick, speaking of tattoos, I talked to somebody, a patient of mine, about this. Tattoos, I don't know. I think like 30 to 40% of the population has tattoos now, especially the younger population has some form of tattoos. At least in the United States, we have no idea, or at least most tattoo artists don't even know what is in those dyes.
Yeah.
Like it's not even regulated by the FDA. And people who get a lot of tattoos, they're actually finding that the pigments are ending up in your lymph nodes and stuff like that. So who knows if that's good or bad for you? I would assume it's bad for you, that you shouldn't have tattoo ink in your lymph nodes or anything like that going through your body. But again, it goes back to the place, like anything that you put on your skin is going to get absorbed into your body.
Yeah, it should be edible.
One way. So you just want to be careful about what you're doing there.
Right. I would really like to meet the younger Keoni, who just came out of a sun tanning studio with his spray tan. Probably smoking a cigarette, got an eye patch on. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. It is interesting though. I mean, in our younger years, we do a lot of damage to our skin unknowingly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Invincible attitude. I certainly didn't take the sunscreen stuff, seriously when I was young. And, by the end of the summer, I was I used to lifeguard. By the end of summer, I was like dark.
Yeah.
You know, and really, and it was always the same thing. First few days of the summer or hanging out by the pool, get burned. And then, you know, after a few weeks, then your skin can cope a little bit better with it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Burning my head that one time really put me in my place.
Yeah, and the problem with the sunburn is that, you know, people think that the damage is only done for those few days. That's not true. I mean, the damage is ongoing long after you had the sunburn. So the more times you get sunburn, the more skin damage you have, the more you lose the elasticity in the skin, and so on and so on. The more you get the fine lines, the more you accelerate aging. So find a sunscreen, be serious about your sunscreen, but find one that's natural. I think there's a lot of sunscreens out there that are really irritating to the skin. There may be some sunscreens out there may actually, once you're sunburned, may actually contribute to skin cancer. So you really want to stick with the natural sunscreens. And my favorite sun healer herb is aloe, but the best way to get aloe is just take it straight from the leaf or find 100% pure aloe product. And you know, you just really want to be careful with the aloe products in the bottle that have this bright neon green color. That's not the way aloe actually looks. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of things in there that may not be the best for your skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, Keoni?
No, that's it.
All right. So happy, healthy skin.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk with you next week.
See you guys. Bye.